10. The corner shot. You may have seen a movie or TV show where a character's been able to miraculously shoot a bullet around a corner. But most people would be shocked to know that it's actually possible to do this in real life with the right weapon. The corner shot is about the size of a rifle and has a hinge allowing it to be folded 90 degrees. It's not able to shoot on its own and instead acts as a frame for another weapon, usually a handgun, which is placed in the front compartment in order to take the shot. Obviously, the operator of the weapon needs to know exactly what they're aiming at, and this is achieved by advanced cameras situated on the front end of the weapon, which feeds back to the user at the other end through a small screen that shows what's lurking around the corner. The trigger of the gun is attached to a linkage system that's installed on the corner shot, allowing users to be able to shoot it like a rifle. This means that operators don't need to break cover in order to shoot, keeping them out of the line of fire and potentially saving lives. Alongside its offensive capabilities, the corner shot also has some supportive functions as well. It can become a powerful surveillance tool, since using a bipod allows its users to set the gun down so they can observe what's going on around the corner. This feed can also be tapped into remotely, and some variants even have a microphone attached to listen for any potential threats or secret conversations. The corner shot does have its drawbacks though. For example, trying to aim around a corner while only using a camera is extremely difficult, especially if the user of the weapon is trying to get a precise shot. Also, for something that's the size of a rifle, it doesn't really pack a punch because you can only attach small handguns to the frame. Despite this, though, the corner shot has been used by some countries and even various police forces as a useful raid tool. 9. GCV Hybrid Tank. Usually, tanks are powered with gas turbine engines, but one company is looking to change this, at least partially. BAE Systems announced a concept in 2012 for a hybrid ground combat vehicle, GCV, as part of a competition held by the US military to find a replacement for the Bradley fighting vehicle, which was over 30 years old at that point, having first been deployed in 1981. Its hybrid electric drive means that it's primarily powered by an electric motor, cutting down on fuel costs and also allowing the tank to be able to get up to speed while moving silently. This is ideal for a combat vehicle designed to get soldiers into an area fast, and for night missions where they need to remain undetected. Within its steel core hull, the GCV can carry 3 crew members and 9 squad members. It's also fitted with an integrated electronic network and embedded intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance equipment. It has a top speed of 43 miles per hour and can apparently do 0 to 20 in 7.8 seconds, which isn't too bad for a 70-ton tank. One of the main advantages of the GCV is the amount of fuel that it's able to save while idling. You might think that the military would be more interested in how much fuel the tank saves while it's moving and operating. However, machines such as this spend the majority of their time sitting still, rather than actually engaging in missions. But thanks to its massive size, it's still quite fuel dependent, reaching 0.73 miles per gallon. It's unknown how far this concept got in the competition, but it's definitely a great insight into some of the tanks and weapons of the future. 8. The flying tank. What would you get if you fused an attack helicopter and a tank? The answer is the MIL Mi-24 Hind Attack Helicopter. Made by Russia, this behemoth of a vehicle is designed to be able to take multiple hits and keep flying, and it even packs a punch itself. Its fuselage is protected by heavy armor plates that can withstand 50 caliber shots from all sides. The cockpit is built on a titanium top that juts out from the main body of the aircraft and is protected by bulletproof windscreens. As you'd expect, this isn't a small aircraft by any standards. It's 65 feet long and measures 21 feet tall. The Mi-24 has room for 8 passengers on board and can reach speeds of up to 208 miles per hour. When it comes to weapons, the Mi-24 Hind is fully loaded. Depending upon the requirements of whatever mission it's assigned to, it can carry anti-tank guided missiles, mine dispensers, rockets, machine guns, and even bomb pods. The flying tank, as it's affectionately been nicknamed, entered service in 1972, and to this day, it's still used by the Russian Air Force, as well as 58 other users worldwide. 7. The Active Denial System. The ADS, or Active Denial System, is sometimes called the heat weapon. However, unlike weapons such as flamethrowers, it doesn't actually involve any fire at all. Instead, the weapon uses radio waves to inflict pain upon its intended target. It generates a focused beam of tiny radio waves at a frequency of 95 GHz, which is only capable of reaching a physical skin depth of roughly 1/64th of an inch. People who've experienced the ADS firsthand say that it feels like their skin's on fire, but it's not actually burning. Instead, the nerves underneath have been stimulated to create this painful sensation. However, 2 people did experience burns during testing of this weapon in 1999 and 2007. But miraculously, the beam from the ADS reportedly doesn't leave any marks or long-lasting effects on the body once you're out of its field of effect. Unfortunately, it's unknown whether the ADS has ever been used in a real-life situation, although there are 2 prototypes of the device known to exist. 6. Robo-dogs. Dogs have served in the military for countless years, but at one point, US Marines were considering obtaining some robotic canine companions to help them on the battlefield. The first prototype was more of a robotic mule than a dog. It came to be known as the Leg Squad Support System, LS3 for short, and it was designed to be able to lighten the load of traveling foot patrols. Amazingly, it was able to carry up to 400 pounds or more of weight, while at the same time easily navigating rugged terrain. The machine, which looks like a headless pack mule made of metal, was created as part of a 2.5-year contract between the Pentagon and Boston Dynamics, a project that reportedly cost $32 million. In July 2014, the Robo Mule made its debut at Rim of the Pacific, the Pacific region's largest military exercise. It was then put to the test on patrols by Marines, who proved its ability to respond to instructions and cover rough terrain. But as great as the Robo Mule was at making it across the terrain and lightening the load for soldiers, it had one major problem: noise. The gas-powered robot sounded like a lawnmower, meaning that it would give away the troops' position and potentially put them in danger during risky operations. Not only that, but concerns were raised about how soldiers would be able to repair the machine on the battlefield if it broke down. This was where Spot came in. Spot was a lot smaller than LS3, around the same size as a large dog. But even though it solved the noise issue, it also suffered from a lack of functionality, as it could only carry 40 pounds of cargo, which was 10 times less than LS3 could manage. Despite this, some military officials remained optimistic that Spot could be a useful reconnaissance unit. However, at this time, both LS3 and Spot have been shelved for the foreseeable future. But with so many recent advances in robotics, it's possible that they may come out of retirement with new upgrades in the future. Do you think we'll see robotic soldiers utilized in combat in the next 10 years? Let us know in the comments down below, and while you're at it, hit that subscribe button. 5. PEP. The PEP, or Pulsed Energy Projectile, is a bit like the phasers from Star Trek. Thought up by the US military, the weapon would work by sending a plasma pulse toward a target. This would then supposedly vaporize the first thing it hit, which usually was the air, heating it up to the point where the air would essentially explode, sending a shockwave toward the target to momentarily blind them, knock them off their feet, and disorientate them. By 2002, the PEP was nearing completion and was scheduled to be operational by 2006. Unfortunately, though, it appears that the project never progressed beyond testing, since there hasn't been any public mention of it since then. This might be due to the PEP's operational constraints. At the time, the goal was to install the laser on a vehicle, plane or helicopter, and fire it from a safe distance to hold rioters, snipers, or troops without endangering service members. But it weighed 500 pounds, so it was likely impractical to implement. The good news is that the technology actually works, so it may be adapted in the future. 4. Dolphin Soldiers. The US Navy and Russian forces have something in common. They both have military dolphins enlisted in their armies. During the Cold War, Russia and Ukraine were part of the Soviet Union, and the Russian military dolphin program began in the 1960s. The program was handed over to Ukraine after the dissolution of the Soviet regime. However, when Russia invaded Crimea in 2014, where the dolphin training facility is located, they took over operations once again. The US Navy trains its bottlenose dolphins in San Diego alongside sea lions, who are also utilized in military operations. But why would the military want to enlist sea lions and dolphins? The answer is that these animals make great reconnaissance and search units, able to find various items on the seabed as well as undersea mines, divers, and submarines. They're both able to achieve their goals in different ways, with the dolphins using sonar to detect things and sea lions having impeccable night vision underwater. By having these aquatic helpers on their side, the Navy can also cut down on manpower. A small boat with 2 handlers and a dolphin or sea lion can easily replace and do the same job as an entire ship, which would need to be crewed with multiple personnel, doctors, and equipment. Reducing the number of people involved puts fewer lives at risk. In terms of whether the dolphins have been trained to attack, this seems unlikely. Often, these animals can't tell the difference between friend and foe, which could lead to disaster if they attack the wrong person or vessel. 3. The Puckle Gun. The Puckle Gun, or the defense gun as it was sometimes called, is one of the earliest examples of an automatic weapon. It was surprisingly patented back in 1718 by a lawyer from London named James Puckle. What's even more interesting than the fact that it was one of the earliest examples of automatic weaponry were the rounds the weapon used. The Puckle Gun was equipped with both round and square bullets, and each one had a different intent and target. Round bullets were thought to be less damaging, and so these were designed to be used in the Puckle Gun when it was fired at Christian enemies. The square bullets were reserved to be used on the Turks, who were of Muslim faith, as it was believed that they would cause the most destruction and ultimately convince the Turks of the benefits of Christian civilization, as quoted from the patent. But why invent a gun designed to bring maximum damage to Turkish foes? At the beginning of the 18th century, the Ottoman Empire had taken control of most of Southeast Europe, Western Asia, and North Africa, and was entangled in a series of conflicts with European countries. The Ottomans were advancing into Eastern Europe, converting captured Christian populations to Islam. The Ottomans also controlled the Mediterranean Sea, performing raids on trade ships and other vessels. Their fast boats meant they weren't easily countered by the larger and heavier European warships at the time, meaning the Ottomans could easily board and capture vessels with ease. This was what James Puckle invented his Puckle Gun for. Instead of trying to aim a cannon at the nimble Ottoman fleet, the gun could be mounted on the deck and be used to take down the Ottomans as they attempted to board the ship. The Puckle Gun was likely the first machine gun. However, it wasn't able to work at the rapid pace of modern machine guns, since an 18th century musket could only fire 3 shots a minute. The Puckle Gun, on the other hand, could fire 9. The technology of the time would be the downfall of Puckle's creation though. It was trialed in 1717, when the flintlock mechanism that the Puckle Gun used, which was common at the time, was deemed too unreliable for it to be a success. As a result, backers weren't interested in the weapon, and the Puckle Gun was resigned to the pages of history. 2. The Gyro Jet. The Gyro Jet was one of the more innovative and futuristic gun technologies of the previous few decades. Instead of pressurized gas, the plan was to fire projectiles using burning rocket fuel. Since there was no need to contain pressure, a rocket-firing gun could be manufactured much easier and for a much cheaper price than a typical cartridge-firing cannon. The way it would work was that the rocket ammunition would speed down the barrel as the fuel burned. 4 rocket jets would be oriented to spin the projectile for accuracy, and the bullet would reach the end of the barrel at its maximum velocity. Although the handgun version of the Gyro Jet did sell a few hundred units, the concept never really took off. Most of the guns were bought as novelties and were never actually used in combat. Fundamental accuracy issues prevented the gun from being taken seriously as a real weapon, so ultimately the Gyro Jet was a complete failure. Eventually, the company that created it went out of business, but there are still some Gyro Jet carbines and handguns out there owned by collectors. But don't expect to see them on the battlefield anytime soon. 1. The Vomit Gun. There are weapons out there designed to kill, and weapons designed to immobilize. But did you know there's a weapon designed to make you throw up? If you suffer from emetophobia, the extreme fear of vomiting, you might want to sit this next listing out. First showcased by company Invicon Inc. in 2007, the weapon was designed to blast radio waves through walls that would make people lose their sense of balance. A side effect of this would be severe motion sickness, which inevitably would lead the unlucky victims to vomit. The company stated that it could be used as a non-lethal way to subdue people. Potential uses could be in hostage situations or when dealing with large amounts of hostiles in combat. The US Navy was certainly interested in this weapon at one point, but it's not exactly clear whether we'll be seeing vomit beams anytime soon. So, at least for now, your lunch is safe in your stomach. If you were offered $100,000 to be a test subject for some non-lethal military weapons, would you rather be hit with the vomit gun or the active denial system? Let us know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.